Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome in. I am glad you're here today. Welcome to episode 2 of the Mama Sparks Show. I am very excited. I have to tell you that this is the second time I've recorded the entirety of this program, and I am working out some kinks within the streaming application that I've selected. So, I've had a dress rehearsal. I am very, very warmed up. Hopefully, I retain any of the sparkle from the first time I did this and can present to you some decent content. So thank you for being here today. My name is Lisa. I will be your host. I am a Disney World enthusiast. I am a mom of three. I work in corporate America, and this is my passion. This is my hobby. And I'm here to build a community of fun loving, Disney World loving folks that want to share tips and tricks and be educated and be prepared and bring a little bit of magic into everyday life. Wherever you are, listening, learning, eventually this show will take on a live form, and I fully expect engagement and commentary, live Q&A, fielding questions on the fly together, and truly developing a community of Disney lovers, people that are preparing to go to Disney World. I'm all for it. This is a creative outlet for me. My intention today is to continue to dive into what I'm calling WDW 101. On our first episode, we focused on just a general overview of the scale of Disney World and all that it entails, and then looking at each of the four theme parks. And to build upon that 101 education foundation, today we'll be discussing all things Disney World Transportation. It's a little bit dense. There's a lot to unpack here, but I would say, particularly if you're a first timer and you're preparing to go, you cannot ignore the nuance of the transportation system. And that's actually one of the biggest first time mistakes is not understanding the scale, the scope, the time required, what your options are when it comes to how you're going to navigate and transport your family across this giant Walt Disney World, which is the size of San Francisco. So we will unpack that in detail. I will try not to bore you too much. I'm going to try to make it a little bit fun, engaging. You'll get to know me a little bit more. Then we're going to dive into first timer mistakes in general, and we'll take a peek at my upcoming trip itinerary. So we are getting ready for our annual big family Walt Disney World vacation. We're in the final stages. I think we have 36 days to go. So packing, schedules, reservations are done. It's like crunch time for me now, but I thought it's a perfect time to start taking a look at sample itineraries and how I allocated our time, our park schedule, and certain reservations that we've obtained and things like that. Then we'll just do a couple of quick questions that are common that I think would be beneficial to the wider audience. And then we will say adieu for the day. So, without further ado, I will carry us into the first portion of our show. So, we will always start our shows with what I call Sparks Notes. And this is really to be a little anecdotal story to you, maybe some history, trivia, education, or something fun to get us into the vibe that we're learning, we're enjoying, we're talking about Disney World. So today, as you can see, iconic Disney World Transportation, we are talking about our highway in the sky. So here we go. Here is your Sparks Notes for today. Imagine arriving at Walt Disney World in 1971. Not by bus, not by car, but gliding silently above the landscape on a futuristic highway in the sky. That wasn't just transportation, it was a statement. The Walt Disney World monorail system opened on October 1st, 1971, the same day as the Magic Kingdom, embodying Walt Disney's vision of a more efficient, forward-thinking way to move people. Today, the system spans nearly 15 miles of elevated track connecting the Magic Kingdom, Epcot, the Transportation and Ticket Center, and several of Disney's flagship resorts. It operates across three primary lines: the Express, the Resort Loop, and the Epcot line, each designed with a specific purpose: speed, accessibility, and connectivity. What started as a simple loop in 1971 around the Seven Seas Lagoon expanded in 1982 with the addition of the Epcot line, transforming it into a true multi-destination transit network. But what really sets the monorail apart isn't just its layout, it's how much it moves. On a typical day, more than 150,000 guests ride the monorail, with the system capable of transporting thousands of passengers per hour in each direction. Annually, that adds up to 54 million riders, making it one of the busiest monorail systems in the world. It does all this with relatively small fleet, about a dozen trains, each stretching over 200 feet long and carrying roughly 300 to 360 passengers at a time per train. And while it may feel smooth and effortless to riders, behind the scenes, it's a tightly controlled and highly engineered system. These trains can reach a maximum operating speed of about 40 miles per hour. But throughout the system, there are speed restricted zones, some as low as 15 miles per hour, especially around curves, incoming stations, and high traffic areas. These limits are not suggested, they're enforced automatically by the onboard computer system. If a train exceeds the allowed speed in any section, it immediately triggers what's known as an overspeed stop, bringing the train to a controlled halt. Safety is further managed through a system called MAPO, M-A-P-O, and that is actually short for Mary Poppins. It's a moving block control system that ensures trains maintain safe spacing. Under normal operation, each train must stay at least 500 feet apart from the one ahead. If that distance is reduced, the system automatically applies the brakes and won't allow the train to move again until safe spacing is restored, or until an operator performs a controlled override in very specific scenarios, like moving between track sections. Failing to maintain that distance, called an overrun, is treated as an extremely serious event, which gives you a sense of just how highly regulated the system is. And yet, as a guest, you never feel any of that complexity. What you experience is something entirely different. A nice elevated glide over the Seven Seas Lagoon, or maybe a straight pass through Disney's Contemporary Resort, or that beautiful moment when Epcot's iconic sphere comes into view. The technology fades into the background, and what remains is the experience. Over the decades, the system has evolved from the original Mark IV trains of the 1970s to the modern Mark VI fleet introduced in the late 1980s, bringing many improvements in automation, safety, and capacity. But the core idea has remained exactly the same. For more than 50 years, the monorail has quietly done its job, moving millions of people every year with remarkable consistency, while still feeling like a glimpse into the future Walt Disney imagined. So the next time you hear, "Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las puertas," you're not just boarding transportation. You're stepping into one of the most ambitious and enduring pieces of themed infrastructure Walt Disney ever designed. And that, my friends, is your Sparks Notes for today. I hope you learned a little bit. I know I did. I'm going to take a deep breath. It's a lot of talking for me today. It's funny, as I'm preparing content now for the program, I just like full of facts, and I'm just commonly like word vomiting them out to my family. And right now, I think they find it entertaining, but give it a few months, they're going to be like, "Mom, stop it. It's enough. You're obsessed. Stop with the facts." We shall see. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the Walt Disney World Transportation System. You'll see here on the screen just a general map. I shared a version of this in episode 1, and really this is just to give you an idea again of the scale, the scope of Walt Disney World. It is a lot. And the infrastructure that supports all of the transportation is a lot. We've got monorail, buses, the Skyliner, many boats, vehicle rideshare available. There are parking trams. And I did want to note, in case you didn't know, Disney World Transportation is of no cost. I mean, I'm not talking about rideshare, you would pay for that, but monorails, buses, Skyliners, boats, you don't pay to board the monorail. You don't pay to board a bus. You don't pay to ride the Skyliner. Once you are on Walt Disney World property, you can traverse from park to park or resort to area at no cost to you. What you also should note is that if you choose to bring your own vehicle, there will be a cost. Whether you are staying at a resort or parking your own personal vehicle within theme park parking lots, you do pay for that. So just something to be mindful of. You pay to park your own vehicle, and you do not pay to indulge on the Disney provided transportation. Let's get into each piece. We already spoke quite a bit about the monorail, our highway in the sky. What you're seeing here is on the left a map of the route. And then on the right, we have a beautiful picture of our iconic yellow train just passing Space Mountain and coming up on the Magic Kingdom Cinderella's Castle. If we look at the map here, there are 3 different lines on the monorail system. So we'll start with the resort line, which you can see in the dotted yellow. And I'm actually realizing I did have an error in my graphic here. It should have continued all around the lagoon. But if we start, for example, let's just start at the Grand Floridian. This is where my family typically stays. It's where we're staying on our next trip. Gorgeous flagship resort. If you're staying at the Grand Floridian and you want to travel to the Magic Kingdom, you get on the monorail on the 2nd floor of the lobby, and it takes you up around the bend right to Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom is your first stop on the resort loop if you're leaving from that resort. It then goes on from Magic Kingdom to Contemporary, stopping at the TTC, which is the Transportation and Ticket Center, moving on to Polynesian, and then once again back to Grand Floridian. The resort line just does that over and over and over again. You could stay on it, you could ride it all day long, you can just be going in a loop. But it is something to be mindful of in terms of the direction and the order of the stops, because that could impact your timing. For example, if you are staying at the Contemporary Resort and you're expecting to be in the Magic Kingdom by 9 a.m., be mindful of, by the time you leave your resort room, get to the monorail boarding on the right level of the main building. Carry on from there. You have 1, 2, 3 stops before the 4th stop is the Magic Kingdom, your destination. So that may take you some time. On average, the entire loop would take about 20 minutes, but that can depend. So you want to be mindful of how many stops are required before you get to your final destination. I do want to note also, actually we'll get into that after. Let's move forward to the Express line. So the second line of this monorail is called the Express line, and that essentially just goes only from Magic Kingdom to the TTC, the Transportation and Ticket Center. Now let's explain what the Transportation and Ticket Center is. The TTC is a central hub at Walt Disney World that acts as the primary parking lot and transit interchange for Magic Kingdom. And it also is where you would embark on the monorail to Epcot. So that was that addition to the monorail system. And what will happen is, let's say, for example, you are coming from one of the resorts around the Seven Seas Lagoon and you would like to travel to Epcot. You would take the resort monorail to the TTC. You would then disembark. You would go down the ramp, and then you would go back up the ramp to board the Epcot monorail. Okay. So similarly, if you're going from anywhere else, let's say you were at Epcot for the morning and you are going to Magic Kingdom next, you're park hopping. You would get on the monorail from Epcot, go to the Transportation and Ticket Center, get off, go down the ramp, go back up the ramp, get on the express line directly to the Magic Kingdom. Alrighty. A couple of things to note around the TTC, just good to know for families, I feel like. It is staffed. There are Disney cast members and ticketing booths at the TTC. So if you need to purchase tickets, if you need help, maybe modifying tickets, if you have questions, there are cast members available. There are vending machines with beverages and snacks, and there are restrooms, which my family has used on multiple occasions. For some reason, we can't make it from Grand Floridian all the way to Epcot. Someone always has to use the bathroom. So it's just good to know that those are available there. What else did I want to know about this? Oh, I did want to just speak to a little bit more about the functionality of the monorail. Let me get to my notes here. Okay. So a common question, well, actually something, I don't know if it's common, something I've wondered about myself is are they actually driven, right? We know that they've taken advantage of some automation over the past couple of decades, but is there anyone really in that front, cab of the train? And the answer is yes. There are monorail pilots, but the pilot's role is pretty limited. The pilot is in the front cab and they do supervise the computer system. They press all the buttons that close and open the doors, and they have to press the go button to initiate any movement out of the station. But other than that, once they press go, the system pretty much just propels itself. We have all the automation for the safety controls and the proper spacing and the proper speeds. So when it comes to being a pilot, this is probably the easiest type of pilot you could ever be. I mean, I would love to retire as a Disney World monorail pilot. That sounds fantastic. Like I can just ride around and view the castle all day, maybe read a book. Be great. Like that is goals. Of course, there are options for manual overrides as needed in specific scenarios, but largely computers control the speed, the acceleration, the braking, all of that. Once in a while as well, pilots will invite families to join them in that front cab. It happened to me as a child, I think, unless I'm like dreaming that up. And I've seen it happen for others. So I wouldn't say it happens for every ride. It's maybe a rarity, but it does happen where the pilot will come out and take a look at the people in line and invite a family to join them, which is a great view. All right, another tidbit. So I mentioned that the fleet of monorails, despite the volume of transport that they fulfill, the fleet is quite small. So there are a dozen trains and they are named by color. I have the list there. We have train blue, train black, train coral, train gold, train green, train lime, on and on and on. You will note I have an asterisk next to train pink and train purple. Another tidbit. Train Pink and Train Purple unfortunately retired in 2009 after an accident. So unfortunate, it has happened. I am not aware of any further mishaps, collisions, but there was one in 2009 between Train Pink and Train Purple, which resulted in those two being retired from the fleet. And my 4-year-old daughter is very sad about that because pink and purple are her favorite colors. And we're hoping maybe one day they'll come out of retirement. But as it stands now today, we have the 12 remaining colors. And I think that's a good high-level overview of the monorail. We're going to move along to buses. Buses are the backbone of Disney transportation. There is a fleet of over 400 buses, and Disney operates one of the largest private bus systems in the US. These buses run pretty much continuously. They connect every park, resort, water park, Disney Springs. They're the only transportation option that truly goes everywhere. And they're actually very smart. So we'll get into that. Despite their size and reach, the system is very, very dynamic. The routes are not static. And this is what's really fascinating to me. They adjust pretty much live time based on demand, the time of day, and the crowd patterns. So that's why a bus might show up in 5 minutes or 20 minutes. They're using live GPS data to understand how best to serve the bus community. From a guest perspective, buses are often the most practical option, but from an operations perspective, they're the most complex. Coordinating thousands of trips daily across a property roughly the size of San Francisco, that's a lot. They actually, Disney buses log millions of miles every year, and they do keep logs of that. Essentially, they're like circling the globe dozens of times annually. It's incredible. Wonder how much they pay in fuel. Probably almost as much as the firework expenditure, I would imagine. I actually want to Google that. I might do that later. So they're definitely not as glamorous as the monorail, and I have to admit, I hate taking the bus. I just hate it. Um, you have to fold your stroller. Monorail, I can take my double stroller and just bloop, put it in, everything stays. Bus, you have to take everything out. You have to fold it. It's a whole thing. So my biggest recommendation, if you're traveling with small children, if you're traveling with a stroller, you need to have like reusable grocery bags or bags from like TJ Maxx or Marshalls, those big bags, tote bags. Everything goes in a bag, everything lives in a bag, so that when it's time to fold and board, you just grab your bags. Somebody else folds the stroller, off you go. It's the only way to do it. End of night is the worst because by then, like nothing is organized. It's like, 9 o'clock, 9:30, you're trying to leave Hollywood Studios. Everyone's like exhausted, stressed out. There's bubble wands, there's snack wrappers, there's water bottles, like everything just thrown in your stroller. And you gotta take it all out. Um, so I'm not the biggest fan. I had a horrible experience. Um, and a horrible experience on a Disney bus, actually leaving Hollywood Studios on our last big trip. I was 8 months pregnant, and we had our two kids, so 3 and 5 at that time. Recently, 3 and 5. And it was the end of Hollywood Studios. And I'm like, obviously pregnant, right? Like, there is no denying it. And late at night, I'm like, beyond pregnancy, Disney World exhausted. And my husband is folding the stroller. So I've got like, at least 8 bags in my hand. And then my daughter was like half asleep. So I'm holding the 3-year-old, massively pregnant, all these bags, trying to direct the 5-year-old who's also like falling over. And we're boarding, and all the seats were taken already. And it was adults. Like, there weren't really like families with other small children or anything. And nobody got up and moved. I'm like, I was astounded, like absolutely astounded. And then that turned into anger. And I mean, I carried it for a while. So let's just not be those people. Please don't be those people. If you're any transportation, any bus, if you see someone with small children, particularly if they're extra pregnant, and you don't have like a large burden, large load that you're carrying, just be kind and offer up your seat for that short ride, please. It would be much appreciated. I don't know who those people were. I don't know where they are. I don't know if they remember. I don't know if they feel shame, but they should feel shame. Shame on you. Shame on you. I still it still affects me, but I am trying to move on. Maybe that's why I have more of a negative stigma around the buses. It's those selfish people. But anyway, so yeah, you gotta be prepared. Get all your stuff in bags. Hopefully, if you're overburdened, somebody will move for you and let you sit for a few minutes. Um, Wanted to get into more of the the innovation beyond this. So each Disney resort features a passenger information system that real-time displays estimates for the next bus arrival to each destination. So this is a part of that GPS system. and it provides projected wait times. So, no matter what resort you're staying at, I believe it's on the TV, but it's also at the bus stops. There are screens. So if you're physically standing at the bus stop, you can look at the screen and see, okay, it looks like the Magic Kingdom bus is arriving in 10 minutes, or whatever the case may be. But you can also access that from your resort room. I am pretty confident of that. Typically, they arrive at intervals of 20 minutes or less. And then on board, there are recorded announcements that inform passengers about points of interest around the route, along with upcoming stops. And the GPS technology actually ensures that the appropriate message plays at the correct locations. So that's pretty cool to me. Like it pings that we're by this area of Disney World and it automatically plays that message. All of the buses are air conditioned. All of them are accessible. They can accommodate up to 2 wheelchairs or mobility scooters per vehicle. Again, as I noted, strollers must be folded. They did also update their roads and infrastructure in the past 10 years to add bus specific lanes and some of the heavily used roads. So, like around Disney Springs, Buena Vista Drive, Epcot, there are bus specific lanes that only the Disney buses can use. And that allows them to just be, expedite their travel. What else do I want to say about the buses? I think that's a good overview. We don't need to go into it too much. Let's keep going on. Skyliner. All right, Skyliner, the ride you didn't have to pay for. They actually used to have a gondola ride just like this in Walt Disney World back in the day. It was in Fantasyland. It took you from one side of Fantasyland to the other, I think. I used to ride it. I don't remember too much about it, but this is basically that, but much larger. So the Skyliner opened in 2019. It's the most recent edition of Disney Transportation, and it's focused mainly around the Hollywood Studios area. This is a gondola lift system that connects 4 of the Disney Resort hotels and essentially 2. So I noted it's primarily Hollywood Studios, but it is also Epcot. Well, you can get there. Yeah, it is Epcot. Sorry, you just have to stop through Disney's Riviera to get to Epcot. Anyway, so I have a map of this and I wanted to share it with you, but another creator made it, and I'm trying to be very careful of YouTube regulation. And there's this whole thing around fair use, where if you're sharing content, you have to make sure that it's fair use. You're either providing education and commentary around it, and things of that nature. So I don't want to steal someone else's image in this case, but you could easily Google Disney World Skyliner routes and you will see. So as I mentioned, Hollywood Studios goes there. From Hollywood Studios, you can go to the Art of Animation and Pop Century resorts. There's a combined station where you could get to each of those. And then there's another route that goes to the Riviera Resort. And then from the Riviera Resort, it goes to Epcot. So if you're just thinking that through, you could also, for example, you could be at Epcot and park hopping to Hollywood Studios, and you would just get on there. You'd have to make the stop at Riviera, then continue on with service to Hollywood Studios. I have actually never done the Skyliner, and I probably never will. I don't know if this is true or if it's just something about the optics in my head. I feel like it has frequent issues where they're stopped midair. I've seen that on social media quite a bit. And again, maybe it's just like an optics thing where I've seen it enough that I have the perception that it's frequent, but maybe it's not really frequent. But these things are not air conditioned. So each gondola cabin can seat up to 10 guests. It is wheelchair accessible. They travel at about 11 miles per hour, so quite slow, but they do not have air conditioning systems. There is window and floor vents, so you can get some breeze there. But I don't know. I just, particularly at this stage in my life with 3 young children, that would be a nightmare to me. Whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't know. I don't want to stop. And I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk being stuck in a gondola hanging in the sky at any point with my kids without air. It's just seems really fun. Maybe later in life I will. But right now, not for me. Also, just wanted to note, you can see on the image here that some of the gondolas are character wrapped. And while that's super fun and cute, and maybe your kid will say, oh, I want to go on the Pluto one. Just note that the character wrapped gondolas, you don't have as good of a view or as clear of a view. So if you're anticipating looking out the windows, getting pictures, seeing the sights, I would opt for a gondola that is not character wrapped. That is my tip when it comes to that. Let's keep plucking through. We're onto our vessels, boats, and ferries. This is what I would call the scenic route. Now, maybe not the most effective mode of transportation, but it's enjoyable. It's another type of ride, right? This is where function meets atmosphere. And Disney World has a lot of boats and ferries. So I'm going to do my best to talk you through this and try to be concise about what I'm sharing with you. I don't have really visuals to accompany this, so you'll have to just try to stay with me. I'm going to start with the largest, which is the ferries. Not ferries like Tinkerbell, the ferry boats that traverse the Seven Seas Lagoon. So there are 3 of them, and they are quite large. They go from the Transportation and Ticket Center to the Magic Kingdom. So let's say you parked or you came in from Epcot on the monorail, like anywhere, as long as you're at the Transportation and Ticket Center and you're trying to get to Magic Kingdom, you have the option to just take the ferry, which can be a fun change of pace. So 3 different ferries, they are named after past Disney executives, which is kind of cool, I think. 2 of them are twins. There's a red and a blue. Those are like twin ferries. And then there's a 3rd ferry that's green. They're named Richard Irvine, Admiral Joe Fowler, and General Joe Potter. So those were the past executives, which I honestly know nothing about them. Maybe I should research them. Might be fun. Each ferry boat holds up to 600 guests. They are staffed by a minimum of 3 crew members. During the opening and closing periods of Magic Kingdom, all 3 are running. And then in between that time, 2 ferries will operate. Wait time is usually 10 to 20 minutes. And the crossing of the water takes only 6 minutes generally. But with departure and docking procedures, it could be like 10 to 15 minutes round trip. So just something to know. And another option too, the monorails can get like slammed after the fireworks end in Magic Kingdom and everyone's trying to get out quickly. And the line for the monorail can be a lot. So take a peek at the ferry line. It might be a better option, especially if it's not too cold, because you might get a little windy. There is indoor seating available, but just FYI, you want to check that option as well. Now we will get into our cruisers and motor launches that are also primarily in Seven Seas Lagoon, but they also go to the connecting Bay Lake. So there are 10 of them. 6 of the motor launches are pretty small, and those ones don't accommodate mobility disabilities, but there are 4 that are larger that do accommodate them. So they have different routes across these 10, and the routes are indicated by a flag, and that's just kind of used internally. I don't think you need to keep track of the color coordination to the routes. There will be signage letting you know which boat to board to where. But essentially we have one route that connects the Magic Kingdom to the Grand Floridian and the Polynesian. And we've done that one. It's actually something that's fun to do on checkout day. If you're staying at one of those resorts and you're trying to kill time before you leave to the airport, or maybe on even arrival day, it might be a fun activity after you check in, or if you're waiting for your room to be ready, it's free. It's a nice little ride. So just go down to the little marina. It just takes you all around Seven Seas Lagoon. So that one would go from GF, Grand Floridian, to Magic Kingdom, to Polynesian, then back around. Just kind of loops around those 3. There's also one that goes from Magic Kingdom to Fort Wilderness. So thinking this through, because I've had to think this through before, if I'm at the Grand Floridian and I want to get to Fort Wilderness, how would I do that by boat? I would get on the boat from Grand Floridian, go to Magic Kingdom, get off that boat, get on the boat that goes from Magic Kingdom to Wilderness, because there isn't a direct boat from Grand Floridian to Fort Wilderness. Okay? Does that make sense? Um, so that's another one. And then there is another route that goes from Magic Kingdom to the Wilderness Lodge, which I believe is on like the Bay Lake side of the water. So that's another option. If I wanted to go from Grand Floridian to Wilderness Lodge, which is different than Fort Wilderness, you have to go on a different boat. Um, so that's just, it gets a little bit complicated, but I want you guys to not remember all of this, but to at least be aware of the options and what might be applicable to you that you can quickly Google or pull up. The next boat is Sasagula. I honestly, I don't know if I'm saying this properly, and I didn't take the time to like ask AI how to pronounce it. Sassagoula. Sasagula, I think. Sasagula River Cruise Ferry. Yeah. So this one services Disney Springs area and the Disney Springs area resort. And if I go back, I didn't plan on doing this, but you can see in the lower right hand corner, like the Disney Springs area, and you see the body of water, like in the middle of that land, and that goes over to the upper middle right, all those resorts around there. That's what we're talking about. So this will go from Old Key West, Treehouse Villas, Saratoga Springs, Port Orleans Riverside, Port Orleans French Quarter, all of those Disney Spring resorts, back and forth from Disney Springs itself, which is the large entertainment, shopping, dining center. Huge. We can spend a whole episode probably on Disney Springs in the future. Let me click back over to where we were. All right. I think we're almost done. We have one more type of boat. These are called friendship boats, and they are in Epcot. These boats would take you from the Epcot area to the Epcot area. I'm sorry, the Epcot theme park to the Epcot area resorts. Those would be the Boardwalk, the Beach Club, the Yacht Club, and the Swan and Dolphin. Swan and Dolphin, not technically 100% Disney resorts. We can get to that on another day, but they are in the Epcot resort area with a Disney affiliation. You can take a boat there. The boat entry for Epcot is on the back side of the park. And I didn't discuss this when we were doing our Epcot overview, but there are 2 points of entry into the Epcot theme park. The main one, which is by World Spaceship Earth, that's where, majority of Epcot goers will enter. If you're parking, if you're coming from monorail, if you're coming from rideshare, that's how you're getting it. There's no other option. The other entrance is in World Showcase. It's back by France. It's like entire opposite end of the park, but you can only enter there if you're coming from like one of those resorts by boat or by Skyliner. Okay. So I hope that's not too confusing, but there's no way to like negate the main entrance if you're not coming from one of those places first. That makes sense. So if you want to enter the park from the back, you got to do it by one of those travel areas. You could always leave from the back entrance and go somewhere, like maybe you're at Epcot and you have reservations at the Riviera. You could leave from the back, get on the Skyliner, go to Riviera, take it back to Epcot, and then you're in again. I hope that's not too complicated, but again, I want you guys to be aware. And I think that sums it up for our boats. There are many, 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 many boats. Let's keep going. I'm going to get a sip of my Poppy prebiotic? Goodness. Prebiotic soda. I hope you guys couldn't hear me sipping. That would be a travesty. All right. Next, we will touch on rideshare. because this is a recent option, I would say, is Uber and Lyft have exploded all over the face of America, which is great. I love the convenience of it. But this is obviously, you pay for it, right? You have to. This is not a Disney paid for transportation service. It is operated through Lyft, but it is staffed by Disney. Okay. So good to know that. If you want to look for, these are called minivans. If you want to book a minivan, you need the Lyft app. They look like this. They're red and white polka dot vehicles. It does offer you the direct door-to-door service anywhere on property. You can also book this for airport transportation. So when you arrive, you can book a minivan to take you directly to your resort. Um, they can be especially useful for traveling with kids. They do have car seats available, but I believe it's up to two children's seats. If you need to get somewhere really quickly, like you think the buses are going to take too long, you have a reservation that's coming up fast, this is your best bet. Um, and they're one of the only services allowed to drop you closer to the front entrance of parks than any other ride share. Like they get special ride share pickup drop off space as compared to like an Uber or a standard Lyft. So you can choose between standard SUVs, which seat up to 6 passengers and can include child safety seats. They do have accessible vans for those that have wheelchairs or disabilities, mobility disabilities. They can fit up to 2 wheelchairs. Um, and it does use a primarily distance-based fare. You will see that. If you're used to Uber or Lyft, you'll see kind of what the going rate is. It will depend on demand and peak time. So like park opening, park closing is higher demand. So you're going to pay a little bit more, but definitely good to know that you have that option. Again, you have to have the Lyft app. And lastly, I love these. I love these, and I haven't done them in a long time because we don't rent a car, so we don't have our own vehicle. We live in Michigan. We always fly, and then we just rely on Disney World Transportation. But as a child, my parents would typically drive us from Michigan down to Florida, and then we always had our car. And so we'd park, at the theme park parking lot. And then you mosey your way down to the end of the strip of the parking lot and you wait for your tram. And I think trams are fun. They're like the first ride of the day. You get that breeze. There's always this, cast member on the back. Some of them are quite entertaining. They'll tell jokes, they sing songs. I think it's a good way to kick off your day. I should find a way to ride one again because I kind of miss it now that I'm thinking about it. But there are some things for you to know about the trams. It seems relatively simple, but if you're going to be a driver and a parker and a trammer, I got to tell you what you need to know. All right, so let me pull this down for a second and get to my notes. All right, so they're open air shuttles, obviously. They run continuously. So as long as the park is getting ready to open and as long as there are still people exiting the park, they're going to be running. Like they'll make sure there's nobody hanging out there. Across Disney World, there's 6 tram lines. There's 2 for Magic Kingdom, 2 for Epcot, 1 for Hollywood Studios, and 1 for Animal Kingdom. Okay, so Magic Kingdom. There's 2 different parking areas within the Magic Kingdom parking. There's the heroes and there's the villains. So depending on which parking area you land in or you select, if you're given the choice, you'll go on either the heroes tram or the villains tram. And you have to remember that for when you're leaving, right? Because you're going to have to get on the right tram to effectively find your vehicle at the end of the night. So highly recommend if you're parking and you're tramming, take a picture of the line, the row that you're in. It will be designated by number or icon or title or character, something like that. Take a picture and remember which tram line you're going to be in. Epcot similarly has 2 parking areas and 2 tram lines. These ones are called Earth and Space. So again, just keep track of which tram you should be getting on at the end of the night. Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom, small enough parking lots that they only have 1 single tram line. Um, and you can elect not to take the tram. You could just walk, but depending on where you found your parking spot, it could be a long walk. Okay. Trams are not wheelchair accessible, but there are designated parking areas for each theme park parking lot that are specific to guests with mobility disabilities. So if you are in a wheelchair, you can't ride the tram, make sure that you drive up to that designated area. You may have a brief conversation with the cast member directing traffic just to confirm that you are one of those guests with disabilities, and then you'll be at the closest potential parking area to the park entrance. All right. Everybody follow? Are you all still with me? This is a lot. I told you it was dense. Told you it was dense, but I hope it's valuable. So here's where we're going to bring it all together. If you want to screenshot this, I think I've done a decent job in that it's all accurate. So this goes through an overview of each of the transportation modes, an idea of the fleet volume, which is just a nerdy statistic that I like, average wait time to board, the typical hours of operation, and then the primary destination areas, which I think is one of the most useful columns of information. So now's your chance to grab that and keep it handy dandy. Before we leave transportation world topic of discussion, I did want to touch on, oh, you guys can't even see I am Disney-fied in my apparel. I made a commitment to myself that every episode I would wear something Disney-ish. I do have my Minnie Mouse earrings. Anyway, before we leave transportation land, I wanted to touch on airport transportation because that's a big question if you're flying in. They used to, but Disney no longer provides complimentary transportation. It used to be called Disney's Magical Express. It was a part of your resort stay. You would just get on the bus to your designated resort area. That is no longer. I'm hoping, especially with the new CEO, he seems to be going back into the archives of things that worked well. I'm hoping that he reverts that in the future. We shall see. So far, I'm pretty happy with the changes that he's making. Maybe we'll do a little feature on him upcoming. But the options for getting to Walt Disney World from Orlando International Airport include the Mears Connect. I think that's one of the most popular. That's what we are doing. With Mears Connect, there are two options. You can do like the basic fare, which will take you to your designated resort area, but it may not be direct. So, for example, if you're staying at Saratoga Springs, which is in the Disney Springs resort area, you may have to stop at one or three different resorts to drop off other guests before you get to your final resort destination. The other option is the Mears Express. That's what my family chooses to do just for sake of time and efficiency. You know, it's already a long morning travel day. Let's just get there as fast as we can. This always works well for us. We have never waited really from the time we get to the bus area within the airport to the time that we're dropped off at the Grand Floridian. So it's a little bit more of a cost, but cost for convenience. Of course, your other options are the ride share, the minivan. So you could do a minivan or you could do a standard Uber or Lyft. Of course, you can rent a car. It's always an option too. Or you could do a private car service. I know of a couple. You could Google it if you want some sort of like town car. They are, of course, available with Orlando International Airport being very large. You can do that if you want as well. All right, so I think we got through the bulk of things. Again, take a snippet of this if you want to. Buses equal coverage. Monorail is flagship plus speed. Skyliner is efficiency. Scenic routes. Boats is also a scenic route. Trams, first, last mile to the park. Rideshare gives you flexibility. Just a quick little overview. All right, what do I have next? Walt Disney World. Oh, Walt Disney World first timer mistakes to avoid. And then I had to include this picture. If you listened to episode 1, I told a little bit of a story of how my husband and I went on Tron and literally thought we were going to die. Like I was ready to meet my maker right there. If you look at my face, in his face. I mean, it's just we're so dialed in or dialed out, or I don't even know. I've never experienced something like that in all of my life. And during episode one, when I was talking about it, I said, "Oh, I wish I had the picture I would share with you guys." So I decided to just throw it in. This is the face you'll make when you make one of these mistakes at Walt Disney World. So let's make sure you read and understand and don't make these mistakes. Number one, underestimating how big it is and how to move around it. So we've kind of talked about that. That's kind of step one of what I've been trying to emphasize here is understanding the scale, the scope, how much time it takes so you can plan appropriately. Number two, not planning ride strategy. You have to research. You have to have some sort of strategy, even if you're convinced that you don't care. Like, I don't care which rides I go on, or I don't care, how long the lines are. I'll just wait. You can't. It's hard to just wing it. It really is. And if you're going to be investing in a trip here, at least have some semblance of what you want to do. I would advise picking 3 to 5 combination of attractions that you'd like to experience at each park and having a semblance of an idea of what your day is going to look like, but you also have to be prepared to be flexible, right? Things are going to change. You never know. You never know what's going to happen with weather, with kids, with anything, right? Nothing is guaranteed. Do your best to be prepared and have an idea of how things look, but always be willing to shift as well. Number three is overbooking every minute. You will fail, in my opinion. I see people doing this a lot on Facebook. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer by any means, but sometimes I'll see these folks that get to their reservation point, the 60-day mark leading up to their trip, and they'll kind of share their itinerary, and it's like, arrival night, hoop-de-doo review, dinner, next day, Magic Kingdom, breakfast, private photo op, all these rides, character dining, and it's like back to back to back to back. Or I'll see, 4 park days in a row, and I'm just thinking, gosh, I don't know. Let me know how that goes. Like, I'm so happy that you got everything that you wanted to get, but sometimes having it all it doesn't give you the experience that you might be looking for. You want to have time to just chill. You want to have buffers. You don't, in my opinion, I don't want to go to Disney and just feel like rush, 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 like pressure to hit each mark on the time. So you want to have balance, in my opinion. Next would be ignoring rest time. So similar to that, burnout is real. You know, be mindful. You know your family. You know how to handle it. There are 2 schools of parenting thought when it comes to rest time. There are the parents that are adamant to go back to their resort or hotel and rest and nap and then, return to the park after the rest or nap time. And then there are the parents like me and my husband, and where we're like, no, if you're tired, you will sleep in the stroller. I'm not taking the time to return to the resort, travel there, unload you, get you in bed, whatever, let you rest for an hour and then go back. Knowing my children, they would like fall asleep on the monorail or on the bus. And then by the time I got them to the room, they'd be like perfect up, jumping, ready to go. So for us, it's not effective. Some parents though, like that's how their kids are. They need that like quiet time. Disney is high sensory. It's very easy for kids to get sensory overload. So you know what to do, but make sure, you understand how your family needs to rest and recharge. And the last item is waiting too long for reservations. Just don't be ignorant to this. It's a big, big deal. Kind of like the transportation. You have to understand the mechanics of reservations, what's hard to find, when you should do it, if you can change it. Some of them you pay up front, some of them you don't. So we'll dedicate some focus time to that, but I want to get it on your radar. Like, do not make these mistakes. Okay. And we'll help make sure that you're better than that. No one here that's a first timer is going to endure any of these things. All right. So that being said, we will get into my sample travel schedule here. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on this. I just, I feel like it's appropriate to share a little because, we are going relatively soon. So maybe this is helpful. Maybe this isn't. I won't read through everything because that's boring. But we are, in summary, we are doing 6 park days. So we're staying for 9 nights, technically 10 days, kind of. Um, and we're so of those 10 days, we've got six at the parks, two kind of down days or pool days, and then we have the two travel days. So that adds up to the 10. Um, Let me see. Oh, the reason why we're doing 6 park days, initially when we booked this stay, we were only going to do four. And then we found out about the Disney World Summer Package promo. So when booking a qualifying 6 night stay, you receive 6 park days for the price of four. So I could have just paid for four, gone for four, but I'm like, heck, we get two for free. So this is running May through mid-September of 2026. They commonly do these promotions. The other one that's running right now is that when you book a qualifying resort stay, you get free entry into a water park on your arrival day. We're actually not going to take advantage of that, but it is an active promotion right now. Just FYI, their promos typically release in four major waves. So 3 to 7 months in advance of the upcoming season, they'll release the promotion for that season. So there is typically like a summer, fall, winter, promotion. Just keep an eye on it. And note, similar to what I did, I booked well in advance, and then this promo was released after. But I still was able to take advantage of it. So just keep an eye on that. Even after you book, like keep checking back because the rates may change or promotions may open up. So a way that I tried to keep balance with this trip, and especially being mindful of the 6 park days, I mean, that kind of is a lot, even for us, and we're experts. Um, I tried to have the high energy park days followed by recovery time, and then big ticket reservations spaced out. Um, so, travel day is always exhausting. Animal Kingdom is kind of chill. And then we have a character dinner. Magic Kingdom, it's like a soft Magic Kingdom day, I would say. Not too much going on that first day. And then we've got pool day with a cabana rented out at Grand Floridian. Um, Hollywood Studios is going to be, I think, the most challenging day. We've talked about this before. Hollywood Studios is one of the hardest parks to do it all in one day. You have to be very mindful of your use of time. And we do have the droid building, sci-fi dining, and then Fantasmic, and a lot of things we want to do on that day. So that's the one I'm the most concerned about, but we'll see. And then the rest, Epcot, another pool day, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. I'm doing for the first time with my 4-year-old, and I cannot wait. I hope she enjoys it. We will see. So that is my trip plan. I'll share more in terms of, I don't know, whatever we think may be useful. Packing, shopping, grocery delivery. I'll try to think of what may be the most useful to you guys, but also I did want to say, please feel free to email me if you have questions, if there are specific things that you would like me to cover, mamasparkshow@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. And again, we'll eventually get this into a live show where you can join the YouTube live, interact and ask questions and comments. So that will be coming. But in the meantime, please feel free to email there, and I will be sure to address anything you bring to light. Q&A. I'm just gonna do two today because I want to be mindful of time, and we're already up almost to an hour. Let's see. Oh, I think the first one I was gonna address is like the one that I get asked the most often, and there's no good answer to this, unfortunately. But the most common question, I mean, everybody asks this. How expensive is a trip? How expensive is my trip? Or how expensive is the average trip? Like, there's a lot of nuance we can get to here. So, I mean, in general, I feel like for a family of four, if you were going 4 to 5 days, your cost would probably be between $4,000 to $10,000. And I would say it would be hard to get it lower than that for a family of four for 4 to 5 days. And it does depend on how you go about it. I mean, The follow-up question would be, how can I save money? And of course, number one is where you stay. You know, that nightly fee certainly adds up. So that's a huge factor into what you want that environment to be like when you go back at night. You know, there's lots of things to consider, what you're willing to pay for. So value resorts are definitely the way to go if you want to keep it to as low as possible budget. You can also stay off property. You know, you can look outside of Disney World. There's give and take for that though. You know, be mindful of your time to travel into the Disney World environment. You would require a vehicle of your own, or you'd have to perpetually Uber or Lyft if you're staying off property. Although some of the hotel chains and the immediate exterior of Disney World property, some of them do offer bus service within their resort packages or stays. So that's something to consider. Bringing your own snacks for sure. We always pack a lunchbox and our own snacks, and we bring them into the parks. I'm a stickler for that. I don't actually enjoy eating out that much. Like I much prefer eating like our own food and Whole Foods. So what we do is day one, we get a grocery order delivered. You can do this to any resort, and they will typically deliver it to the lobby. If you're not available, the lobby can store it for a short time in one of their beverage coolers, but note that those aren't like the coldest things in the world. So if you're getting something that's perishable and needs to stay cold, you should retrieve it pretty quickly. You can also have the concierge. At least I know this at Grand Floridian Polynesian. I don't know about all the other resorts, but typically the concierge, if you get notification, let's say I ordered Amazon delivery and I get notification it was delivered to the lobby, I could call the front desk or the concierge and say, hey, can you please deliver that to me in room 8431? And they'll bring it up. But there is a fee for that. I want to say it was between $6 and $8, maybe $6 and $10 every time I had concierge bring it to me. But to me, it was worth it. I mean, there's a walk from our room to the lobby. What we always do too is get multiple cases of water. I hate drinking hotel resort tap water. I just do. It doesn't matter where I am. I'm sure their water is fine. It's not going to kill me, but I have to have bottled water. So we always get cases, and it's a lot. So for me, it's worth it to pay for concierge to bring it directly to my room. So that is a way to save money. And then we get refrigerated items too, you know, string cheese, apples, hard-boiled eggs, you know, all those snacks. It adds up. Disney snacks can be pricey. So buy the stuff that you want, that you know your kids eat, that's easy to pack and take with you, and that'll save you a lot. You can skip certain things, you know, it can still be magical without doing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, or without doing Cinderella's Royal Table, or, you know, getting a park hopper or buying the Lightning Lane. Like you have to find what fits you. Like pick a budget that you can achieve and kind of go from there. Like there are ways to restrict it. So I won't spend too much more time on that initial question for right now. Maybe we'll look at some strategies to that in depth at some point down the road. But I think that that's a good place to leave it for today. I hope that it was informative. Again, I hope that I was tolerable. I hope that you guys will stick around. Please, 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 if I can ask you one thing that doesn't cost you anything, please hit like. And if you want to keep up with me and the trip planning and learning things, subscribe. But definitely like if you did, of course. That is the only way that I can start to gain traction in the YouTube algorithm. Really, it's the engagement, the comments, the likes, and the subscriptions. There are ways that I could alter the content and try to develop like hooks for my titles in terms of SEO, you know, search engine optimization. I don't want to. Okay. Like I was a VP of marketing for years. I know what I could do for SEO performance. I don't want to. I want my content to be authentic. I want my titling to align to what I'm presenting in the content. So I'm just going to ignore it. So beyond that, I can't do any sort of tips and tricks to finagle YouTube algorithms to push me up. So I really would appreciate genuinely, if you don't mind, clicking the like, and please subscribe if you want more, and appreciate any comments, engagement. I think that's it for me today. I will leave you per usual with a quote from the man himself, Walt Disney. I hope you all have a magical day. Make it a magical day wherever you are, and we will see you again next time. Thank you.